Now for our roundtable with our News Channel 5 political analyst, Mary Anna Mancuso, and Brian Crowley. Thanks as always for being with us. Brian, we'll begin with you. We'll get to the Christmas woodchuck or chipmunk on the desk behind you later. Let's talk about COVID-19 leadership and distribution. We'll turn over the calendar soon enough to 2021, but in talking to our guest in Palm Beach County, and it really applies to all 5 of our counties and beyond, the test of leadership is really going to be a critical one as we get to the distribution stage. Speak to that.
Oh, absolutely. This may be the biggest test that our governor, Ron DeSantis, will face in the months ahead. Many may have agreed or disagreed with him about the approach to using masks and social distancing and local mandates. But this is both simple and complex. The vaccines are becoming available. It's going to be up to him and his leadership to help determine the distribution of those vaccines. And, he held a press conference last week on Friday to discuss that. And it sounded like he has a plan, but we'll see whether or not it works out. And I think counties like Palm Beach County and others in our area will be looking very carefully to make sure that they get, especially with our senior population, get the kind of vaccine availability that we need.
The question about fair share, Mariana, will be front and center.
Yes, it will. And I think that there's an opportunity here for the governor really to turn around his response to the coronavirus. He's received a lot of backlash. There's been early victory laps that are not necessary. And now he has a chance to actually kind of make amends for that and see that this distribution goes around and that everyone does get their fair share. So I know that myself, Brian, will be watching him closely to see that he gets this done.
Let's turn to Florida politics mixed with national politics. The Florida Attorney General, Ashley Moody, filing an amicus brief on President Trump's behalf. This relates to a Texas lawsuit. She's one of 17 Republican attorneys general backing the case that essentially is part of the legal campaign to reverse the results of the election, questioning the validity of the results in places like Pennsylvania and Michigan. Mariana, your take on this? She's catching a lot of heat from Democrats, support from Republicans in the state. Your take?
I'm really shocked because when you talk to her supporters, they say that she's done a fantastic job of leaving politics out of her office and focusing on upholding the letter of the law. And then she turns around and does this and signs on to this letter. And it's just extremely perplexing that she would do this when she's been in such a good position up until this point. You know, she didn't need to do this to try and fend off any early preliminary people running against her in 2022. But for some reason, she's chosen to do it. And I don't think that it leaves a very good taste in the mouth of many Floridians that did vote and made their voices heard on November 3rd.
To Mariana's point, though, Brian, it seems that very much this is becoming a litmus test for Republicans and Democrats in the next election cycle in 2022. Where were you on this post-election fight? Your thoughts?
Well, once again, it suggests what a tremendous stranglehold Donald Trump has on the Republican Party. You don't defy Donald Trump in this party. It's not even really the Republican Party anymore. It's the Trump Party. And that just shows the influence and the power of Donald Trump. It's a shame that Ashley Moody, following in the footsteps, frankly, of Pam Bondi, has turned the AG's office into a political operation. If there's one office in the state that should be apolitical, it should be the Attorney General's office. Let me also note that many members of Congress signed on to this, including 10 members from Florida and our own Brian Mast. And it's a shame that they decided they had to step into this political puddle and not just recognize the fact that the election is over.
What does it say? I can imagine those who support President Trump watching, listening to you and saying, hey, full speed ahead, we need to look into this. Democrats say we are eroding faith in our democracy. What are your thoughts about where we are when this post-election fight goes on and on and on, even though judges and Republican lawmakers and leaders in places like Georgia have at every step of the way said there's no there there?
Well, every election supervisor in the states that they've been challenged has certified the vote. Their individual workers, both Republicans and Democrats, not only certified the vote, but did necessary recounts and all that. Both Democratic and Republican leaders in each of these states have approved of the ballots and the voting in their states. Judges, federal judges and state court judges, many of them appointed by Republicans, including Donald Trump, have found no cause to throw out the election. And now they're dragging this thing into the Supreme Court, where most legal analysts have said it's like the worst case that's ever been thrown toward the Supreme Court. I mean, I just don't, and they don't even want to believe Bill Barr, the Trump appointee who has done pretty
The
much
Attorney
everything
General.
that Donald Trump has asked.
Yeah.
I don't know where this comes to an end.
Mary Anna, not as Republicans or as Democrats, but as Americans, how should we all look at what we're doing to our electoral process?
Well, I think that this is troubling. You know, people are very short-sighted right now, right? The Republican Party and Trump, they're trying to overturn it. They're saying that it was rigged. They're trying to go out and run rallies saying stop the steal, but they're not looking ahead to future elections, right? Because there's going to be a point on January 20th when Trump will no longer be in office. But what happens in the elections that'll come up? Will there be opportunity for other candidates to feel as brazen as Trump has to try and defy the results and say that they need to be overturned and that they were absolute junk? And what does that mean for voters? And what does it mean for their confidence when they cast their ballot? Is their vote going to be overturned? And I don't think that people are really thinking about this in terms of future elections and opportunities for people to go to the polls and have their voice be heard.
Just under 2 minutes in this segment. Speaking of him out of office after January 20th, much has been written about Mar-a-Lago becoming the center, at least of his political world post-presidency, and those who will go there seeking his blessing. Talk about the dynamic for Palm Beach County, for Florida, and Florida politicians, with Mar-a-Lago at least being the center of the Republican world, with Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, soon to be former President Trump, being there. It's going to be interesting for our community, Mary Anna.
It will be. It'll be very interesting to see, you know, how much time does he spend here? Will he stay here indefinitely? Will he go to his other golf courses? But I think that you also see the influx of Republicans kind of coming in and out of Mar-a-Lago for fundraisers. At this point, I would say he should just take the doors off and stick a revolving door on it, because the Republicans will all be there trying to curry favor with the former party leader.
Does he take all the oxygen out of the room for people like Marco Rubio, who some say might want to look ahead to 2024 for much less looking at midterms and what happens there about who needs his blessing? But as we look ahead, Brian, with the proximity in Florida, your thoughts, your take?
Well, I think that Donald Trump, if he chooses, will continue to have enormous influence on the Republican Party. Why would I expect any of these people who have not stood up and defended our election to suddenly defy him in the weeks and months ahead, when they may be thinking about running for office themselves? They're all terrified of Donald Trump and his support, and, you know, frankly, rightly so, because his supporters are more loyal than anything I've ever seen in 40 years of covering politics. I think that Trump is going to continue to have enormous influence on the Republican Party for years to come.
Brian, Mary Anna, back with your closing comments, and your friend over your left shoulder, Brian. We'll be back in just a moment with those closing comments.